Humans don't frighten me, Supreme Commander Kale Varek said, and the entire galaxy heard him laugh. The words traveled across millions of screens, through diplomatic channels, and into the homes of countless civilizations watching the final meeting between the Varkesian Empire and Earth. But the strangest thing was not the commander's confidence. It was the silence from the humans sitting across from him. Commander Nathan Walker did not argue. He did not raise his voice. He simply looked down at the data tablet in his hand, reviewed the numbers one more time, and quietly took a sip from a cup of coffee that had already gone cold. That was the moment Kale Varek began to feel something he had not expected. Not fear. Not yet. Something much smaller. Doubt. The Supreme Commander had spent 2 centuries building his reputation. He had negotiated with kings, defeated rival commanders, and watched entire civilizations surrender before a single Varkesian ship entered their orbit. To him, confidence was proof of strength. Hesitation was proof of weakness. And humanity had shown him nothing but hesitation. They had asked for meetings. They had requested time. They had tried diplomacy when every other species would have chosen confrontation. Varek saw that as weakness. Nathan Walker saw it differently. Nathan was 47 years old, a former officer of Earth's Defense Forces who had spent most of his adult life learning one simple lesson. The loudest person in the room was rarely the most prepared. He had lost friends during humanity's early encounters with alien civilizations. He had watched people underestimate opponents because they only saw what was visible on the surface. Now, standing inside the massive diplomatic chamber of the Varkesian flagship, he saw the same mistake happening again. "You understand your position, Commander Walker?" Varek asked, leaning back in his command chair. His voice was calm, almost amused. "Earth is young. Your fleet is small. Your technology is unusual, but unusual does not mean superior." Nathan looked up. "I understand our position." And Varek waited for an answer that would confirm his victory. Nathan glanced around the chamber. Hundreds of alien officers watched him. Some looked curious. Some looked confident. A few looked almost disappointed that humanity's representative was not more dramatic. Nathan simply said, "You are making a decision based on incomplete information." A quiet wave of laughter moved through the room. Varek smiled. "That is your defense." "No," Nathan replied. "That is your warning." The room became still. Not because Nathan sounded threatening. He did not. That was what made it uncomfortable. He sounded like someone explaining a fact that everyone else had missed. Varek studied him carefully. "You truly believe humanity can challenge the Varkesian Empire?" Nathan looked toward the massive viewing window behind the commander. Beyond it, Earth appeared small and peaceful against the darkness of space. "I believe humanity has spent a long time trying to prove we can live with others," he said. "But some people mistake patience for weakness." For the first time, Kale Varek stopped smiling. The conversation was supposed to end with humanity accepting the Empire's demands. It was supposed to be another simple victory, another species learning its place. But as Nathan Walker stood there, calm and completely unmoved, the Supreme Commander noticed something strange. The human was not acting like someone who had been cornered. He was acting like someone waiting for something to happen. And then, somewhere deep inside the Varkesian flagship, a single warning light turned red. Then another. Then another. Across the command deck, officers slowly turned toward their screens. The alarms had begun to scream. The first alarm was not the sound of an attack. It was the sound of a mistake being discovered. Across the Varkesian flagship, officers froze as warning indicators appeared one after another across their command displays. For a civilization that had controlled half of the Orion region for centuries, the sight was almost impossible to understand. Their systems were not reporting an enemy approaching. They were reporting something much worse. They were reporting uncertainty. Supreme Commander Kale Varek stood from his chair slowly, his expression changing from amusement to irritation. "Explain." The command officer at the tactical station hesitated for only a moment before answering. "Commander, our long-range sensors detected an unidentified energy pattern near the human delegation ship." Varek looked toward Nathan Walker. "Your people brought additional vessels into this system?" Nathan did not answer immediately. He looked at the officer's screen, then back at Varek. "No." The simple answer made the room quieter. "No." Varek repeated. "Then why are my systems reacting to something your people did not bring?" Nathan placed his coffee cup on the table. "Because your systems are asking the wrong question." Several alien officers exchanged confused looks. Varric stepped closer. And what questions should they be asking? Nathan looked through the observation window at the endless darkness surrounding them. Not what is arriving. What then? What has been here the entire time? The words settled over the command deck like a weight. Varric studied the human carefully. This was the first time he noticed something unusual about Nathan Walker. The human was not surprised by the alarms. He was not confused. He was watching the officers react exactly the way he expected them to react. That bothered Varric more than any threat display could have. You knew this would happen, Varric said. Nathan remained silent for a few seconds. Then he answered honestly. I knew there was a possibility. You are lying. No. Nathan's voice stayed calm. I am being careful. That answer irritated Varric. The Supreme Commander was used to enemies who either feared him or challenged him. He understood anger. He understood pride. He understood desperation. But patience? Patience was harder to read. You expect me to believe humanity has hidden capabilities from the entire galaxy? Varric asked. Nathan looked at him. I expect you to believe what your own people are showing you. The command deck suddenly became active again. Officers moved between stations. Reports appeared across multiple screens. The Varkesian network was receiving strange signals from the space around Earth. Old signals. Encrypted signals. Signals that should not exist. Lieutenant Commander Mira Solon, one of Varric's most trusted intelligence officers, approached with a troubled expression. Unlike the other officers, she did not look angry. She looked concerned. Commander, the source of the signal is confirmed. Varric turned. From where? Mira looked toward the planet below. Earth. The room went silent. Varric stared at the blue world hanging beneath them. A planet they had classified as peaceful. A planet they believed was still developing. A planet they thought had nothing that could challenge the Varkesian Empire. Impossible, one officer whispered. Their military records show no active systems capable of producing this signal. Nathan heard the statement and quietly replied, That is because you only studied what we wanted you to see. Varric's eyes narrowed. You manipulated our intelligence reports? No. Nathan looked back at the commander. You made assumptions. There is a difference. The Supreme Commander felt a rare moment of uncertainty. For the first time in years, he considered that humanity's greatest advantage might not be a weapon or a ship or a piece of technology. It might be the fact that everyone had been looking in the wrong direction. Then another alarm appeared. This one was different. Every officer recognized it instantly. It was not a warning from their sensors. It was an internal security alert. The flagship's own systems had detected an unknown command trying to communicate with them. Myra's face went pale as she read the message. Commander. Varric looked at her. What is it? She swallowed. The signal is not requesting access. Then what is it doing? Her eyes moved toward Nathan. It is identifying us. For the first time, Kale Varric did not see a diplomat standing across from him. He saw a man who had been waiting for the moment when the galaxy finally noticed what humanity had kept hidden. And somewhere beneath the surface of Earth, something ancient had just awakened. For the first time in 200 years, Supreme Commander Kale Varric did not have an immediate answer. The message on his command screen was still there. Clear. Simple. Impossible. The unknown signal had not attempted to breach the Varkesian flagship. It had not threatened them. It had not demanded anything. It had simply identified them. As if Earth had been watching long before the Varkesian fleet ever arrived. Varric stared at the screen, then slowly turned toward Nathan Walker. Explain. Nathan remained still. I cannot explain something you have not asked the right question about. Several officers looked toward the human with disbelief. Varric's patience was thinning. You speak as if this is a conversation between equals. Nathan looked at him. It is. The answer was quiet, but it carried more weight than a challenge. Varric walked closer. Humanity has been part of the galactic community for less than 30 years. Your worlds have spent most of that time requesting trade agreements and diplomatic protection. You have no ancient empire, no history of conquest, no record of controlling systems beyond your own. Nathan nodded slightly. That is correct. Then why does my flagship recognize your planet as a strategic threat? Nathan looked at the tactical display. Because your system is doing something your people did not. And what is that? It is paying attention. The statement frustrated Varric because it did not sound like an excuse. It sounded like an observation. Lieutenant Commander Mira Solon continued reviewing the incoming data. She was different from the other officers on the bridge. She did not share Varric's confidence. She had studied thousands of civilizations, and she knew the most dangerous moments in history usually began with one simple mistake. Someone believed they already understood their opponent. "Commander," Mira said carefully, "the signal pattern is unusual." Varric turned. "Unusual how?" "It does not match human military communication standards." Nathan's expression changed slightly. It was the first small sign that something had caught his attention. "What did you find?" Mira hesitated before answering. "The signal appears to be older than Earth's current defense network." The room became quiet again. Varric looked at Nathan. "Older?" Nathan did not respond immediately. He looked down for a moment, almost as if remembering something from another time. "Humanity has always had a problem," Nathan finally said. "We assume tomorrow will be peaceful because today was." Varric frowned. "That sounds like philosophy, not an answer." "It is an answer." Nathan stepped toward the viewing window. Earth filled the distance below them, calm and blue. Every generation of humans believes they are living in the safest period of history. Then something happens that reminds us why we prepared in the first place. Varric watched him carefully. "Prepared for what?" Nathan looked back. "For the day someone powerful enough would decide we were not worth respecting." The Supreme Commander almost laughed, but stopped himself. Not because Nathan had frightened him, because he realized the human genuinely believed every word. Varkesian intelligence had spent years studying Earth. They had measured population, industry, military production, and technology. They had calculated every visible advantage. But they had never measured something they considered insignificant. Human caution. "You expect me to believe your entire civilization has been hiding a secret?" Varric asked. Nathan shook his head. "No. I expect you to understand that humanity is not a secret. You just never looked closely." Before Varric could respond, another alert appeared. This time, every officer noticed it instantly. The signal from Earth had changed. The command deck lights dimmed for a moment as the ship automatically redirected power to its communication systems. Mira moved quickly to her station. "Commander, the signal is no longer passive." Varric turned. "Meaning?" She looked at the screen, then slowly looked at Nathan. "It is requesting a response." Nathan closed his eyes for a brief second. Not from fear, from disappointment. Varric noticed. "You knew this would happen." Nathan opened his eyes. "I knew there was a chance." "And what happens if you answer?" Nathan looked toward Earth one more time. "Then they will know exactly why we waited." The Varkesian officers exchanged uncertain glances. For the first time since entering human space, they were not watching a weak civilization defend itself. They were watching a civilization decide whether the galaxy was ready to see what it had been ignoring. The Varkesian flagship had faced countless threats throughout its long history. Unknown weapons, rival empires, hostile environments at the edge of explored space. But nothing had prepared its crew for a threat that did not attack. A threat that simply waited. The signal from Earth continued to repeat across every communication channel. It was not a warning. It was not a demand. It was a question. The ship's artificial intelligence had identified the message as a priority command request, but the origin made no sense. Earth was thousands of miles away. No human vessel was approaching. No human fleet had entered the system. Yet somehow, something from the planet below had reached them. "Commander, we need to make a decision," Lieutenant Commander Mira Solon said. Her voice remained steady, but Nathan Walker noticed the tension in her posture. "If we respond, we confirm the channel is active. If we ignore it, we admit we received it." Supreme Commander Kale Varric looked at Nathan. "Your recommendation?" Nathan paused. The question surprised several officers. They expected Varric to ignore the human completely. Instead, the most powerful military commander in the region was asking for advice. Nathan noticed it too. He understood what it meant. The confidence was still there, but the certainty was gone. "Respond," Nathan said. Varric narrowed his eyes. "That's simple." "Yes." "You are not concerned about what happens next." Nathan looked at the command deck. "Concern is why we prepare. It is not why we stop moving." Varric gave the order. "Open the channel." For 3 seconds, nothing happened. Then every screen on the bridge changed. The Varkesian tactical displays disappeared. The navigation maps vanished. In their place appeared a simple message. No symbols of power. No military insignia. Just 2 words. Identification required. The officers reacted immediately. Some reached for their controls. Others began checking security systems. Varek raised his hand. Hold. Everyone stopped. Nathan watched the screens carefully. They are not attacking, Mira said. No, Nathan replied. They are verifying. Verifying what? Varek asked. Nathan looked at the message. Whether you are still the same people who arrived here. Before Varek could question him, the flagship shook slightly. Not from impact. From a sudden change in the surrounding space. Outside the viewing window, several small Varkesian escort ships moved into defensive positions. Their pilots reported unusual sensor activity around the fleet. Something was moving through the darkness. Not quickly, not aggressively, almost calmly. Unknown objects detected, an officer announced. Multiple contacts. Varek stepped toward the main display. How many? The officer hesitated. We do not know. That answer bothered him more than any number could have. The Varkesian military had always known the size of its opponents. It had always measured threats. But this time, the sensors could not complete the calculation. Nathan watched the confusion spread across the bridge. He remembered being in the same position years ago. Humanity had learned the hard way that the universe did not reward arrogance. It punished it. Commander Walker, Varek said quietly. Tell me what is happening. Nathan looked at him. Your fleet came here expecting to find a planet that needed protection. He glanced at the growing number of unknown contacts. Instead, you found a planet that was protecting itself. The first unknown vessel appeared on the edge of the tactical display. It was not large. It was not covered in advanced energy systems. It did not look like the warships the Varkesian Empire admired. It looked practical, purpose-built, almost simple. That was what made Mira uneasy. Commander, she said softly, that design does not match any known human military records. Nathan said nothing. Varek noticed. You know what that ship is? Nathan looked at the display for several seconds. Then he answered, yes. The Supreme Commander waited. And Nathan took a slow breath. It means the part of humanity you studied was never the whole picture. At that moment, every alarm across the flagship changed from warning to emergency status. The Varkesian fleet had not been surrounded by an enemy force. They had been surrounded by a question they could no longer ignore. What else had humanity chosen not to show them? The first thing Supreme Commander Kale Varek noticed was not the ships outside the window. It was the reaction of his own officers. For centuries, Varkesian commanders had trained their crews to remain calm under pressure. They had faced unknown worlds, unfamiliar technologies, and civilizations that claimed impossible strength. But now, inside the bridge of the most advanced warship in the region, experienced officers were quietly questioning the information in front of them. Not because they were afraid, because they had discovered they were missing something. The unknown human vessel remained motionless near Earth's orbit. No aggressive movement. No attempt to approach. No attempt to intimidate. It simply waited. A single ship, Varek said, staring at the tactical display. Humanity sends one ship? Nathan Walker stood beside the command table, watching the data update. That is what you were seeing. Varek turned toward him. And what am I not seeing? Nathan did not answer immediately. That hesitation caught Mira Solin's attention. The human commander had been calm from the beginning, but now there was something different. Not fear. Not doubt. Responsibility. Commander Walker, Mira said, you knew this vessel existed. Nathan looked at her. I knew something like it existed. Something like it. Varek repeated. You are telling me your own military does not know what your military has. Nathan looked back at the planet below. Humanity is not one person sitting in one room making every decision. We are millions of people, thousands of organizations, and generations of people who learned that survival requires preparation. Varek crossed his arms. That sounds like an excuse. No, Nathan said. It is history. The Supreme Commander walked toward the main display. The human vessel was unlike anything the Varkesian Empire expected. It did not have the elegant design of their cruisers. It did not carry the decorative armor that represented power among galactic civilizations. It was simple, functional, built for one purpose: to continue operating when everything else failed. Your people built this? Varek asked. Nathan nodded. A long time ago. Why hide it? Nathan looked at him. Because weapons and ships attract attention. Attention creates fear. Fear creates mistakes. The answer bothered Varek because it sounded reasonable. For the first time, He considered that humanity's silence might not have been caused by weakness. It might have been a choice that no one had bothered to understand. Then Mira received a new transmission. Her expression changed instantly. "Commander." Varric looked over. "Report. We have accessed the historical database attached to the human signal." And Mira looked at Nathan before continuing. "The vessel outside Earth is not a military ship." The room became silent. Varric looked confused. "Not military?" "No." Mira turned the screen toward him. "It is classified as a defense archive platform." Varric frowned. "A platform?" Nathan quietly replied. "A reminder." Varric looked at him. "A reminder of what?" Nathan faced the Supreme Commander. "That Earth does not need to show everything it has just because someone demands it." Before Varric could respond, the flagship detected another change. The unknown human vessel had activated a communication channel. This time, the message was not for the Varkesian commander. It was for Nathan Walker. His personal identification appeared across the screen. The bridge watched as the human commander stepped forward. "You are going to answer it?" Varric asked. Nathan nodded. "Yes." "And what happens if this changes everything?" Nathan paused. "Then we deal with what comes next." The transmission opened. A voice came through. Older. Calm. Human. "Commander Walker, this is Admiral Sarah Mitchell of Earth Defense Command. We have confirmed the situation." Nathan closed his eyes for a moment. He had hoped this conversation would never happen. "Admiral," he said, "give me the status." A short silence followed. Then Sarah answered. "The Varkesian fleet has entered restricted space." Every officer on the bridge looked toward Varric. The Supreme Commander felt the weight of those words. Restricted space. Not because Earth wanted a conflict. Not because humanity wanted control. But because the Varkesian Empire had crossed a line they did not even know existed. "Commander Walker," Admiral Mitchell continued, "are we still following the old protocol?" Nathan looked out at Earth. He remembered the reason humanity had created those protocols in the first place. He remembered every warning ignored, every assumption made by powerful civilizations that believed they understood humans. "Yes," Nathan said quietly. "Keep it active." Across the human vessel outside, systems began coming online one by one, not with the sound of an attack, with the sound of a civilization finally deciding it had waited long enough. Admiral Sarah Mitchell's voice remained calm, but every person on the Varkesian bridge understood the meaning behind her words. The old protocol was active. Whatever humanity had been hiding, whatever preparations had been made over decades, they were no longer just historical records. They were operational. Supreme Commander Kale Varric watched the human vessel outside Earth slowly change. Lights appeared across its surface. Systems that had been silent for years began responding. Not with the dramatic display the Varkesian Empire expected from a military power. No bright energy fields. No attempt to intimidate. Just quiet efficiency. That was what bothered Varric the most. "You expect me to believe this is a defensive system?" he asked Nathan Walker. "After everything we have seen?" Nathan looked at the commander. "Yes." Varric gave a cold smile. "A defense system that activates only after a foreign fleet arrives in orbit." Nathan did not look away. A locked door only becomes useful when someone tries to enter without permission. Several officers exchanged uneasy looks. Varric noticed. His own crew was beginning to understand what he refused to accept. Humanity had not been waiting because it was afraid. Humanity had been waiting because it was patient. "Commander," Mira Solon said quietly, "we have another issue." Varric turned. "What now?" She brought up a new display. "Our fleet navigation systems are receiving conflicting information." "From Earth?" "No." Mira paused. "From our own database." Varric stepped closer. "Explain." "The system is identifying the human defense platform as a previously recorded object." "Previously recorded by who?" Mira looked at Nathan. "By the Varkesian Empire." The bridge became completely silent. Varric stared at her. "That is impossible." Mira continued reading the data. "The classification is from 180 years ago, during the border expansion period." Varric looked back at Nathan. "Your people have interacted with us before." Nathan nodded slowly. "Yes." The answer hit harder than any alarm. "Then why did you pretend this was your first encounter?" Varric asked. Nathan's expression changed slightly. For the first time, there was disappointment in his eyes. "Because we remembered." Varric frowned. "Remembered what?" That first contact is not always a meeting. Sometimes it is a test. The Supreme Commander stepped closer. Choose your words carefully. Nathan remained calm. A long time ago, humanity learned that powerful civilizations often decide what they think about a species before they actually know them. We watched. We listened. We learned. Varric looked toward Earth. And you decided to hide. We decided to survive. That answer stayed in the air. Then suddenly, the Varkesian tactical systems changed again. Multiple ships had appeared on their screens. Not new arrivals. Old ones. Human vessels that had been hidden within Earth's orbital network. They were not surrounding the Varkesian fleet aggressively. They were simply positioned in places that made every possible movement visible. Mira studied the data carefully. They are not targeting us. Varric looked at her. Then what are they doing? She answered quietly. Controlling the situation. For the first time, the Supreme Commander felt the balance of power shift. Not because humanity had displayed a larger fleet. Not because they had threatened him. Because they had demonstrated something the Varkesian Empire had forgotten. Control did not always come from force. Sometimes it came from preparation. Varric turned back toward Nathan. You planned this entire encounter. Nathan shook his head. No. Then what was the plan? Nathan looked at the Earth below. To make sure we were ready if someone else did. The commander wanted to dismiss the answer. He wanted to believe humanity was bluffing. That this was some elaborate display designed to create fear. Then a message appeared on his private command channel. The sender was unexpected. It was from one of his own admirals. The message contained only one sentence. Commander, our fleet analysts have confirmed the human vessels have been tracking our movements since we entered the system. Varric read it twice. Not because he did not understand the words. Because he understood them too well. Humanity had not discovered the Varkesian fleet. Humanity had allowed the Varkesian fleet to arrive. And somewhere beyond the view of every sensor, Earth was still holding something back. For the first time in his long career, Supreme Commander Kale Varric found himself studying a situation he could not control. The Varkesian Empire had built its reputation on certainty. They entered negotiations knowing the outcome. They entered conflicts knowing the result. They entered new territories believing every civilization had a limit, and they had always been skilled at finding it. But Earth was different. The more they learned about humanity, the less they understood. On the command deck, officers continued analyzing the human fleet positions. Every report created more questions. The human ships were not moving toward them. They were not preparing for an attack. They were simply there, watching. They are making a statement, one officer said. Varric looked at the display. No. Statements are made by people who need to be heard. He turned toward Nathan Walker. Your people are doing something else. Nathan remained quiet. What? Varric asked. Nathan looked at the fleet arrangement. They are making sure you understand the situation before anyone makes a mistake. The word mistake bothered Varric. Because deep down, he knew exactly what Nathan meant. The Varkesian Empire had not arrived to negotiate. They had arrived expecting submission. They had entered Earth's space without understanding the history behind the planet they were approaching. Mira Solon continued reviewing the recovered files from the old Varkesian database. The information was incomplete, but one thing was becoming clear. Humanity had encountered the Empire before. Not recently, not publicly, but long before most current Varkesian leaders had ever heard the word human. Commander, Mira said, I found something else. Varric walked over. Show me. The screen displayed an old archive record. The image quality was poor. The translation was outdated, but the symbol was unmistakable. A human emblem. This record describes a species that refused integration into the old Alliance system, Mira explained. It says they withdrew from galactic affairs voluntarily. Varric looked at Nathan. Why? Nathan took a moment before answering. Because we realized something. What? The galaxy was not dangerous because everyone was stronger than us. Nathan looked around the bridge. It was dangerous because everyone believed strength gave them the right to decide what happened to others. The answer created an uncomfortable silence. Even some Varkesian officers looked away. They understood the meaning behind those words. Their empire had always justified expansion as protection. They called control stability. They called obedience peace. Now, standing above Earth, they were forced to consider how another species had seen them. You expect us to believe humanity walked away from power? Varric asked. Nathan nodded. Yes. That makes no sense. It does if you understand humans. Varric waited. Nathan continued. We know what happens when people believe they cannot lose. They stop listening. The Supreme Commander looked at the human commander for a long moment. Nathan was not trying to insult him. That was the frustrating part. He was simply explaining a lesson humanity had already learned. Then the situation changed. A new signal appeared across the tactical display. This one did not come from Earth. It came from the outer edge of the system. Every officer turned toward the screen. Unknown transmission, Mira announced. Origin? Varric asked. She checked the data. Her expression changed. It is coming from a Varkesian source. The bridge went silent. Varric stepped forward. Impossible. There are no other Varkesian vessels nearby. Mira opened the message. The voice that followed belonged to Admiral Corvin Hale, commander of the Empire's Second Fleet. But the words were not a report. They were a warning. Supreme Commander Varric, terminate your mission immediately. You have been given incomplete intelligence regarding Earth. Varric's expression hardened. What is he talking about? The message continued. The information we received about humanity was not inaccurate. It was incomplete by design. Nathan looked toward the screen. For the first time, his calm expression changed. Not fear. Recognition. You know this, Admiral? Varric asked. Nathan nodded slowly. No. He looked back at the commander. But I know what he is warning you about. The transmission continued. Commander Varric, if you are currently within human-controlled space, understand this clearly. You are not facing Earth's military response. The message paused. You are facing Earth's decision. The screen went dark. No one spoke, because everyone on the bridge understood the difference. An enemy that wanted war would have attacked already. An enemy that wanted control would have demanded surrender. But humanity had done neither. They had waited. They had watched. They had given the Varkesian Empire every opportunity to walk away. And now Kael Varric finally understood the most dangerous possibility of all. Earth was not preparing to defeat them. Earth was deciding whether they were still worth saving. The bridge remained silent after the transmission ended. Not the silence of confusion. Not the silence of fear. It was the silence of people realizing the situation was far more complicated than they believed. Supreme Commander Kael Varric stared at the dark screen where Admiral Corvin Hale's warning had appeared moments before. A Varkesian admiral had just told him to stop. Not because Earth was attacking. Not because the mission had failed. Because the Empire had been wrong. Impossible, Varric finally said. His voice was quieter than before. The Varkesian Empire does not operate on incomplete intelligence. Nathan Walker looked at him. Every civilization does. Varric turned sharply. You think this is amusing? No. Nathan shook his head. I think it is familiar. That answer caught Varric off guard. The human was not celebrating. He was not enjoying the moment. Nathan looked almost tired. Like someone watching a mistake happen again after spending years trying to prevent it. Mira Solon continued searching through the old records. Then she stopped. Commander. Varric looked over. What did you find? She hesitated. The previous encounter with humanity was not classified as a conflict. Then what was it classified as? Mira brought up the file. A warning. The word appeared on the screen. A warning issued by the Varkesian Empire itself. Varric stepped closer. Read it. Mira began. Humanity is not considered an aggressive civilization. However, continued pressure or attempts at forced control may result in unpredictable consequences. The bridge went quiet again. Varric looked at Nathan. Your people were warned by us? Nathan nodded. Yes. And you ignored the warning? Nathan looked almost surprised. No. We listened. Varric frowned. Then why build all of this? Nathan looked through the viewing window at Earth. Because listening does not mean trusting. The answer was simple, but it carried the weight of decades. Humanity had not built its defenses because it wanted to dominate the galaxy. It had built them because history had taught humans that promises from powerful civilizations could change when those civilizations became confident enough. Mira studied Nathan carefully. So all this time, Earth was preparing for the possibility that someone would eventually decide diplomacy was unnecessary. Nathan nodded. That possibility exists everywhere. Varric looked at the human ships outside. You knew exactly what would happen when we arrived. Nathan shook his head. No. We knew what often happens when powerful groups believe they cannot be challenged. The Supreme Commander walked back to his command chair. For the first time since entering Earth's orbit, he looked less like a conqueror and more like a commander trying to understand a battlefield. If humanity wanted to stop us, why allow us to reach this point? Nathan was silent for a moment. Then he answered, because we wanted to know if you came here looking for peace or control. Varric looked at him. And what did you decide? Before Nathan could answer, every screen on the bridge changed. A new message appeared. This time it was not from Earth. It was from the Varkesian Central Command. Mira opened the channel. A familiar voice filled the bridge. High Chancellor Orenvale, the political leader who had authorized the mission. Supreme Commander Varric, confirm the status of Earth immediately. Varric responded. The situation is more complex than expected. The Chancellor's voice became colder. Do not allow uncertainty to influence your judgment. Humanity is a developing species. Maintain authority. Nathan noticed the change in Varric's expression. He understood immediately. The Supreme Commander was not the only person making decisions. Someone else had wanted this confrontation. Commander, Nathan said quietly. Ask him one question. Varric looked at him. What question? Nathan watched the Chancellor's image on the screen. Ask him why he sent you here without the full information. Varric hesitated. Then he asked, Chancellor, what intelligence did you receive regarding Earth's previous history with the Empire? There was a pause. A little too long. Mira noticed it. Nathan noticed it. Even Varric noticed it. The Chancellor finally answered. That information was considered irrelevant. The bridge became still, because everyone understood what that meant. The truth had not been lost. It had been removed. Varric slowly looked at Nathan. Humanity had not hidden the past from the galaxy. Someone else had hidden it from him. And now the Supreme Commander had to face the one possibility he hated most. The greatest threat to his mission was not Earth. It was the mistake that sent him there. The bridge of the Varkesian flagship had never felt smaller. For centuries, it had been a symbol of control. A place where commanders gave orders and entire fleets moved because one person decided the direction of history. But now, Supreme Commander Kale Varric sat in silence, staring at a truth he had spent his entire life refusing to consider. The greatest mistake was not losing a battle. The greatest mistake was believing there was nothing left to learn. High Chancellor Orenvale remained on the communication screen, his expression unchanged. Commander Varric, maintain your position. The Empire cannot allow a newly developed species to challenge our authority. Varric looked at the screen. You sent me here without the complete historical records. A pause followed. The information was classified for strategic reasons. Strategic reasons? Varric repeated. His voice carried something new. Not anger. Disappointment. You removed information about a civilization we encountered before, then sent me to judge them based on incomplete knowledge. The Chancellor's expression hardened. Do not allow human diplomacy to influence you. Nathan Walker listened quietly. He had seen this before. Not from the Varkesian Empire specifically, but from countless leaders throughout history. The moment someone realized they might be wrong, they searched for someone else to blame. Varric looked at Nathan. What would you do in my position? Nathan did not answer immediately. I would ask why I was given only half the truth. The answer stayed with him, because that was exactly what he needed to hear. Varric turned back to the Chancellor. Stand down the mission. The bridge froze. Several officers looked at each other in disbelief. The Supreme Commander who had entered Earth's orbit with absolute confidence was now making a decision no one expected. The Chancellor's voice became sharp. You are allowing emotion to interfere with duty. Varric shook his head. No, I am allowing experience to interfere with arrogance. The words shocked the bridge. A Varkesian commander admitting uncertainty was almost unheard of. Nathan watched quietly. This was the moment he had been waiting for. Not a victory. Not surrender. A choice. The human fleet outside Earth began moving. Not toward the Varkesian ships. Away. Opening a clear path back into deep space. Mira Solon noticed first. Commander Walker, your ships are leaving. Nathan nodded. Yes. Varric looked surprised. Why? Nathan turned toward him. Because this was never about trapping you here. The Supreme Commander studied him. Then what was it about? Nathan looked at Earth below. Giving you enough time to decide who you wanted to be. The answer was simple, but it carried more weight than any threat could have. Humanity had the ability to force a decision. Instead, they offered one. Varric looked through the viewing window at the planet that had confused his entire understanding of power. A small blue world. A young civilization. A species that had every reason to become bitter, yet still chose patience. Your people could have shown us this power from the beginning, Varric said. Nathan nodded. We could have. Why did you not? Nathan looked back at him. Because the galaxy already had enough civilizations that believed being powerful meant being right. The Supreme Commander lowered his eyes. For the first time in decades, he had no argument. The Varkesian fleet slowly changed course. The alarms stopped. The warning lights disappeared. The silence that followed was different from before. It was not uncertainty. It was understanding. Months later, the story of what happened spread across the galaxy. Not as a tale of a defeated empire. Not as a story about a powerful species destroying its enemies. It became a story about restraint. About a civilization that had every reason to prove itself, but chose something harder. Mercy. Supreme Commander Kale Varric eventually recorded one final message for the Galactic Archives. We believed humanity was dangerous because of what they could destroy. We were wrong. Humanity is dangerous because they know exactly what they can destroy, and they still choose not to. And across the galaxy, one lesson remained. Strength was easy to display. Anyone could threaten. Anyone could conquer. But true power belonged to those who had the ability to act and the wisdom to wait. Humanity was never asking the galaxy to fear them. They only wanted the galaxy to understand them.